Okay. All right, it's Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. I'll call a meeting to order of the trustees of the trust funds. In your materials are the minutes of our July 29th meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So move.
Second.
Any comments, changes, corrections, additions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Did I assume that Judy gave you your mission after our last meeting? Would you like some additional sort of background on how this came up?
Yes, please.
So this actually sort of developed in June and July. There were, I was aware of two incidents in which I was involved, and I believe Dana also had one, where we were contacted by people wanting to know what kind of process or what requirements existed for the use of Prescott Park, or another one was the little pocket park on State Street. Got a call from a neighbor who was concerned about late night noise and people using the park for purposes for which it wasn't designed. And in each case, they had been referred to the trustees, or they had seen something on the website that suggested that we were still responsible, or in the case of the pocket park, we've never been responsible for everything that goes on there. And so the discussion we had last time around was that it makes sense to correct that record on the website where possible. I also made some inquiries and found out that there was a source in the legal department who was giving bad advice, in the sense that that person was of the opinion that we were still in charge, as we had been prior to the reorganization in 2017. So we thought we'd invite you here to discuss what we should do about our website and, I guess, the Prescott Park website,
Yeah, Prescott Park.
just to clarify that.
Okay, so this dovetails exactly with the last item on the official agenda for City Council last night, and the public forum issues and Prescott Park in general. And I actually just had a totally unrelated question from a new member of the DPW staff, Jen Wentworth, who has been trying to sort out all of the different places, for example, that fees are noted. She's been trying totally tangentially to use handheld scanners so that people can pay for recycling right there and they don't need cash and all that. So she's been looking all over the website. And she mentioned to me that she had spoken to Corin Hallowell, our arborist, about we need to clean up the information on the Prescott Park side of the website. And I said, well, there are multiple different fingers in that particular pie, one of which, and the most used aspects of the Prescott Park website are the Arts Festival, where people look at our page, say, no, this isn't what I'm looking for. We've got a prominent, go here for the Arts Festival, and people who are interested in using the site for weddings. And the weddings part of it and the dock rental seems to be under the domain of the city clerk's office. And I am always cautious and double checking about editing things that are under Kelly's purview, because they're often unintended consequences if I change something. So all of that to be said, the Prescott Park area of the website needs some sorting out and clarification exactly to cover the issues that you're talking about, to update the information about wedding and dock rental and all that side of things, some information about the park itself under trees and greenery, and then the public forum issue, to say nothing, oh, by the way, of the entire Prescott Park master plan implementation and the committee thereof. So I guess what I would say to this committee is that if you have thoughts about how it should be organized and how you would like to see the information about where you go to request use of the park, I'm happy to hear that and implement. I just wanted to kind of relay that there are all these other parts, and that Bob Sullivan has just done a deep dive into the public forum issues, what the original mapping of that site closer to the Memorial Bridge is, and what it should be moving forward. And on the Prescott Park master plan implementation, there was the unintentional suggestion in the original rendering of what the park would look like long-term, that public forum was a much larger area, and that was not an intentional move. It was the engineers not understanding that public forum is a very specific legal phrase.
Just so you know, in the public forum on Prescott Park website, that was the area that came to my attention, and that is the area, unlike weddings or docks, still references the trustees as sort of the authorizing body. So the public forum is the segment on Prescott Park that needs a little attention, and you can't even access it until you hit rules and regulations. So it might be worthy of having its own heading.
Right.
And when it says, when you finally find it, and it says, if you want to see the designated area, click here on the map in red, but you click on the map, there's nothing red that shows you
Right.
where it is.
And in reading Bob's 5 or 6 page memo to council, there was a reference to when you click on the map, it takes you to the wedding map.
That's
not
right.
the public forum
Right,
definition.
yeah.
So I would suggest that I need to look at the whole thing and make it very clear to the public which area you want to go to, so that you're ending up with the information you need. So I can coordinate that with Bob as well, because I don't want to be very careful about what we say about public forum and whom you should contact. And I'm not sure myself that public forum means that you can use it and you don't need permission.
Yeah,
but
it's not clear on the
Yeah.
website.
So I will,
That's a key question.
right,
Well, the other thing that came up, Stephanie, on public forum is in front of the North Church.
right.
And one of the things I took away from last night, you can tell didn't have anything to do last night, so I watched the meeting, is there's nobody available on Sundays to enforce the public forum spaces, both at Prescott Park and the North Church. Because in the North Church, and I see that because I live right there, they're putting chairs down, signs in the chair, nobody holding them, which is, according to Bob, every sign must be held by a living person.
Right.
And it's a mess.
So I also do understand from various prior lives, you could tell it was a late night because I can't finish a sentence. Sorry. So you have to be careful about the language you use because of the way persons who are looking to be within the letter of the law and not necessarily the spirit of law, like putting chairs and signs. How you define what you can do and avoid emphasizing what you can do, avoiding what you can't do. I'm in language that someone can throw at you, but staying within the letter of the Constitution and First Amendment rights. So
I got
will
it from
work
Bob
with-
that you can't be opposed to what they're saying on the signs,
Right,
but you,
just use of the space.
yeah.
So, what I'm hearing is that I should suggest very promptly how the pages that you get when you search for Prescott Park, how they're organized so that there are clear bins of answering what you're looking for. If you're looking for wedding space, that's there. If you're looking for the master plan implementation, that's there. If it's arts festival, it's there. If it's public forum area, all of the classifications that fall within Prescott Park. And work with Bob and Kelly to sort that out clearly, but also to look at other, like you use the example of the State Street Pocket Park, which makes me wonder if there's something in the fine print that says the trustees are somehow involved when you're not. So that's another, and North Church.
Just to correct that, I'm not sure that's the J. Smith Park, whether that's could be found anywhere on the city's website. The whole reason that we had some involvement with that is because there was a small fund that was created after Mr. Smith's death that is used to maintain that. And I believe that our former park director, Michael, used to take care of that park on his own time.
Right.
So I guess where we're coming from, my perspective is that we don't want to be the tail that wags the dog about what should happen with the Prescott Park website. When you get around with that, I'd like to put on my other hat on the implementation committee and sit in on that. But it just, in particular, after I talked to one individual I was like the third person he was speaking with, and my sense was he was getting frustrated that he couldn't just go to the person in charge, that the website shouldn't contribute to that misunderstanding. And so I think, I haven't done a deep dive on it, but I think Dana's point is one, and just anything that should suggest that we still have oversight authority or permitting authority, that just shouldn't exist. I do also, separate from my role as a trustee, think that it can be a little convoluted finding your way through the Prescott Park thing. And years ago, we talked about having some type of disclaimer at the bottom of the site saying, we are not the Prescott Park Arts Festival, because there were people who were looking to make contributions to either the park or to the Arts Festival, who sometimes were being confused when they were giving their money out. So that's just something that should be considered when you get around to doing that.
Right.
Stephanie, if I can, maybe this will help you a little bit. Kelly does the weddings.
Yep.
Okay. Four Tree Island is done by the rec department for the bookings. Tim Bailey and myself work on the docks, because the docks are actually, those monies go into a trust. So the trustees are technically kind of involved with that, although it's the oversight of it is Tim Bailey. And of course, the whole oversight of the park is Peter Rice, which I'm sure that you are well aware of that. So, but those pieces are kind of divvied out a little bit, but like, as far as like the annual docks, lottery and all that, I do that in conjunction with Tim Bailey, and Tim Bailey runs the docks. So just an FYI to help you.
Yeah, that is helpful, because the touch point that I have on the docs usually comes from Valerie French.
And she
Because
always
she's
forwards
just-
it to me.
She's just asking me to do an update or,
Yeah.
when the lottery is open or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
thank you for that
And
clarification.
Kelly does the weddings?
Kelly, her office does the weddings. That has, originally when the change went over, they took that on. I don't believe that's shifted. I mean, usually that's my contact person is Valerie down there. So Kelly's still involved with the weddings. But I do believe that the Four Tree Island booking piece of it has been shifted over to the rec department, which kind of makes sense because it's part of the whole Four Tree Island activity thing that's over there. So just to help you when you're going through your,
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine a connection, a one-stop shopping for weddings, that you go to get a marriage license, and who takes care of the, using the space, and it made sense to
Yeah.
have it be one phone call instead of the 4 that you experience with someone trying to use, trying to understand the public forum. But
It's certainly unclear whether you need a license, permission, a permit, or who to go to authorize a public forum event.
Well, the other complaint I've heard is, how often can you do it? Can the same group do it? Do they have the rights every Sunday from 12 to 3?
Right.
It's not really spelled out very clearly, and that's not your purview, that's Bob's purview. And I haven't
The
seen the
city
menu.
manager gets
Yeah.
requests, so knowing how Jessica Griffin handles inquiries for the city manager, because there's a process. If you want to have a veterans parade or anything in Market Square, there's a process for that, and there's a whole review by all of the city departments, DPW, who need to put up the barricades, police, fire, all of that. It isn't clear to me, and I will do the research on it, how the public forum area in front of North Church is handled, or whether it's open, and the same thing with Prescott Park.
Right.
But it needs clarification. And I think we can certainly start with the basic, this is who you ask if you need to ask. Before Bob goes further in defining the public forum in Prescott Park area, which I know he's working on, and said late last night that he would advance a policy that the city council could review. But in the meantime, we can fix the problem of this is whom you should contact. Do that. And at the same time, make these different, click here for weddings, click here for the docks, that kind of thing. And as I'm remembering, not very well, I don't think the basic first page you get if you do a search for Prescott Park, whether that has one of those rows of buttons like we created for the scholarships, because that strikes me as being an easy thing to do, so that right in the middle of the page in a highlighted area, there's a button for Prescott Park Arts Festival, there's a button for wedding information, use of the space for weddings, et cetera, all those different bins that we just talked about. And that might be a way to organize it, but then diving into the rules and regulations, I will take out the reference to the fact that you need to contact trustees of the trust.
Yeah, and looking down the road as that master plan gets built out, as you know, there'll be potential other uses of the Shaw.
Yeah,
And so again, that ought to be something that people can easily find.
right, exactly, yeah. Our challenge overall with the website is that there is just so much information on it that it almost becomes impossible to use. Obviously, that isn't true, and we work, all of us, hard at making things accessible to people, but then you also are led with the internal search engine to old information. And the only way to get rid of that ultimately is to emphasize the current information. And just like any other Google search engine, the thing that actually works most often, it rises to the top. But I think it's the second highest use or page that comes up in the analytics or the website is Prescott Park, except it's an immediate bounce because what people are looking for is the arts festival, particularly at this time of year.
Yeah.
And so I think we have started leading people, at least they're bouncing out for what they want. But we'd like to get pages that are more useful moving up. But I think if that button idea makes sense, I can do that, and then I can get rid of the misdirection information.
Are you enjoying your job?
I love my job.
I can tell.
I've particularly over the last 2.5 years of the pandemic, I discovered that I was in the job I spent a career preparing for. It was just, didn't think of my career in media relations for travel and tourism to end up as being a public servant, except maybe in Portsmouth. But when I came on board in July of 2019, before we knew what was coming, I had never worked with Peter Rice before. I'd worked on lots of projects with Tom and the African Burying Ground, and started with the celebration of the Portsmouth Peace Treaty in 2005, all kinds of city projects. Had never worked with Peter. And my time was divided between the city manager's office and DPW, and I thought, okay, that'll be interesting. I don't know anything about DPW. And then I spent the first 2 weeks, there's a Monday morning meeting at 8:30 where all of the engineers talk about what's going on in the city, what the construction projects are, what's coming up, so I can communicate that. And at the second meeting, I sat there and I thought, oh, my job is translating engineer into English. And I had spent 37 years translating my husband into English. So I said, I know how to do this, and I love it. Peter Rice is amazing.
I tell you, he's got too much on his plate.
Well, you start out with what all of those guys had on their plates, and then you add maintaining McIntyre, and oh, by the way, community campus, and everything else, and a pandemic, and all of the events, and, helping the city manager navigate for her first 2 years, and I love working with her, so yes, I love my job.
I worry about his health.
It's heavy as the head that wears the crown, because it's just, he always is on top of what's going on,
Yep.
from the tiniest thing to the largest. Lives in the middle of town.
Yep.
People know who he is. I don't know how he eats and sleeps because his phone must ring constantly. But he's a really good guy.
He is.
And as I have found with everybody, all staff, the answer is yes. Then it's figure out how the hell we're going to do it, which is the challenge with all of the new responsibilities, because it's, well, sure. Okay, how do we do that? So,
Yeah, and every single construction project involves the city and infrastructure and everything. And we have more construction in this town than anywhere else in the state
Yeah.
combined. So,
Yeah.
it's really,
well, so it's
he's a one-armed paper hanger.
it's amazing that we also find funds so that we have lots of construction projects that are, matched by federal or state or whatever funding so that we can do them without, hitting the taxpayer. But it just means lots more work. And then adjusting things of, oh, you're going to have a dinner in the middle of Congress Street in the middle of August next year? How does that affect any other construction work we might be thinking around that?
And let's change our street directions as well.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you need from us?
The one other thing that I think is still hanging in midair is I had drafted a one-page description of how you set up a scholarship fund or what you should consider if you want to set up a scholarship fund. So I think the last move
that's still
was
in my-
a draft, so. And I was looking at that yesterday and thinking about a couple of small tweaks, but we'll wait on that. The interesting or challenging thing is our blurb about if you'd like to donate to the community scholarships, this is how you do it, appears weekly in the Portsmouth Herald. The concept was to time it around the time when people were thinking about scholarships, but Judy tells me we're actually getting some traction from that. So I am loath to give up the real estate and then try to get it back. So, but I will note that, and I have said this to the Portsmouth 400 and other nonprofits, that I have learned that all of those pieces of information about arts and nonprofits that get bunched together in a community bulletin board are a specific effort by the Herald to get the analytics that will encourage Gannett and Gatehouse to keep that information in there, because the individual articles from Scholarship Fund or the Music Hall or Portsmouth 400 weren't getting enough clicks. If they put all of those things together, that article gets clicks, and all Gannett and Gatehouse care about are how many people are looking at it, the analytics. So I encourage everyone to click on those stories to demonstrate that all of us in the aggregate care a lot about that information that right now is very hard to
Good
find.
point.
So,
So when I pick up my paper in the morning?
you know, you and me both.
Actually, I'll call you on the other thing,
Okay.
and, because I did have some thoughts of playing around with it. I just, with trips to Sweden, et cetera, I've kind of fallen behind.
Priorities.
Priorities, yes.
All right, well, let me get to work on this, and I'll get you a report back and, get rid of the bad information immediately.
Great,
Okay?
appreciate it.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Sorry to make you come in here so
Oh,
early.
that's all
after.
right. I have a standing 8:30 before the core meeting, so I usually come in at 8, sit up in the finance conference room and start the day. So it's much nicer to start the day with all of you. Thank you much.
All righty, good luck.
Thanks.
Hey, Judy, what do you got for us for the,
I just have the monthly updates. And I'll tell you about a conversation I had with John Quattro.
excellent.
Hey, by the way, were you watching still last night when Peter?
When they wanted to get rid of us? Another thing was last night's city council meeting in the public forum when they were talking about actually it wasn't a public forum, it was a public hearing on the audit committee. One of the speakers said, do you really want to create a precedent where you can just throw out members of a board? Let's take the trustees of the trust funds, for instance. Let's assume you just don't like them, you don't think they're qualified, you want somebody else to be there. I think there was it could be taken different ways, but
Yeah,
I didn't take it as an offense.
no, I didn't either, because I know the guy, so
Yeah.
I
Okay,
didn't have to use my name, though.
yeah, but only you think,
We had a much better month in the month of July.
Yeah.
we
Well,
all did until
yeah.
Friday.
yesterday wasn't very good.
Well, I'm not, I'm looking at July, trying to be optimistic. So brought the portfolio back up a little bit in July. was an increase of 6.92% overall.
And you're a historian. What was the highest it ever got? 23?
Is it that high? I was gonna say 20.
Looks like 22,752
That's correct.
on 12/31.
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, yeah, there it is, December 21.
And actually, we've made up more territory until yesterday, so.
Yeah. So, this first page is just the monthly snapshot. There were no withdrawals in July from any of the funds for any reasons. The second one is your July to July performance with the chart. So you can see overall from July of '21 to July of '22, we're down 9.5%. And then your very last page is the inception date for TD, which was April of '21 to July, and that is currently down 5.63% since the inception date. So it was quite a bit more last month, so it is slowly making its way. Hopefully, it's not the end of the month yet, so maybe it'll recover from yesterday. I did talk to John DeQuattro. I had sent an email, as Tom had requested, regarding the peer group comparison report that you wanted.
Right.
He had been on vacation. I reached back out to him again yesterday saying, hey, you never got back to me, what's up with this? And he apologized, he's been traveling or whatever. But he did say that on the peer report, there really isn't anything that they have. They can't share their clients' information with us, and that most of our investments don't mirror their other clients anyways. And I said, well, what about like the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation and other entities such as that? And he said, well, we can look into that. And I said, okay. I said, well, they'd like you to come in October, and I'm going to get back to you with a date, but they would like to have something when you come in October. So I've kind of thrown that out there to them. He said, well, we just don't generally do that. And I said, well, H.M. Payson did some research, so maybe you can do it as well. So, and he was willing to look into it a little bit.
Just for an FYI, just let him know there's an awful lot of things that we request that they aren't doing.
Yeah.
Do you have available one of the Payson peer review statements?
I'm sure I can go back and look. They usually brought those in, if I remember correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, on their performance reporting when they came in. I think they usually brought those in, right? So I have those reports, so I can go back and see if I can find one so that I can send it to them.
Okay,
And
I
say this is-
was going to say,
Or send it to you.
we didn't get it every quarter or whatever, but at least once a year they gave us that, and the comparison models were, accounts that they weren't handling, so that information is available.
Another one, Judy, the charitable fund, State of New Hampshire Retirement System. I mean, they.
And I think that they didn't Payson use that at one point? I think so.
I mean, that's a large one.
Yeah, so if you can't find it, let me know, because I know I've got some sitting
Yeah, I
around.
might dig through mine and look, see if I can find it.
Because, one of the lessons seems to be we got a great management rate, but we're very confined in what type of performance reviews or comparison models are available to us. They're not saying no, but they're not following through, so
Yeah,
I just want to make
right.
sure we do that.
Okay.
Okay.
I will look and see what I can find, and I will let you know if I can't locate it, and we do have stuff in the files. If I can't locate it, I'll reach out on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Any thoughts or comments on the reports? Okay. All right.
I have some scholarship checks for signatures, and I also have a request from the Futures for some of their salary and operating expense requests. The signature of the superintendent paperwork is attached.
This is
on
for the
that.
Futures Administrative
Yeah.
account, yeah.
Yeah.
So that, you just reminded me that we did sign some checks in July relating to scholarships.
Correct.
They just weren't funds that were
They were
under
not,
management, but-
they were not futures checks. They have not come in with any checks yet.
No, I mean, in terms
Oh,
of,
they're-
your
no, they're
comment
not
was that
investment
there were no
funds.
withdrawals done in July.
Right, when I say there were no withdrawals, I mean there were no withdrawals from the investment funds to do the coverage, so I haven't moved the money. Yes, there was money, but I had moved some prior to cover the checks that I wrote, so. And I understand that Amy Bernier is going to come back for a little bit. God, I'm drawing, the poor thing, I'm drawing a blank on the girl's name that's doing it now. She's pregnant, so Amy's gonna come back and fill in.
Wasn't she the one that was pregnant too?
No, that was Brittany.
Oh, okay.
They're all young girls or ladies.
Who's the director of Futures now?
I don't, the other one that I was still involved in, I had retired. It was the one that had no vowels, only one vowel in the last name.
Oh,
Amy.
Amy Bergner?
Yeah.
Berger,
Yeah,
yeah.
but she's no longer there.
No.
No, she's coming back for a little bit to fill in.
Oh,
She's-
that's who you said is coming back. Oh. She's good.
She's very good.
Yep, Ithaca. Here we go. Where my daughter went. Marist. Penn State.
Let's see what the school's name is. Thank you.
Denver.
That's a decent-sized scholarship.
There were some big ones this year. It was great to see.
How much was that one, Tom?
12,000?
12? Wow. I don't think I've seen one that
Combined,
big.
there were multiple different
Yeah,
scholarships.
but still, I haven't seen one that big.
Yeah, we had one for 13 last time. So there were a few students who got some good funding. Wow, big amounts.
Here's someone going to the University of St. Francis,
Where's that?
Scotland.
St. Francis or St. Andrews?
I'm sorry, St. Andrews.
Okay, I'm like, did I
St.
write that wrong?
Could have been the University of St. Dana.
Yeah.
And how you doing? You finished yet?
Finished what?
I don't know, you were doing some degree.
Oh, yeah, I got, yeah.
Did you get any scholarships?
Now, I'm on to my next venture. That was, I think it was over 4 years it took me. Slow and steady.
Yep, and that ended up with a Masters of Arts,
Yeah, liberal arts.
liberal arts. That's impressive.
Oh,
That's a
thank you.
good school, Clemson.
It was, The courses were fabulous, really. They were really good.
All right, before we open it for public comment, any new business or old business?
I'd like to set dates
Okay.
for September, October, November, and December, if we could, please.
Oh, man. Taking us, it's winter, I'm already cold here in those.
I know, I'm sorry. And just to let you know, John did say the week in October that's best for them because they've kind of got some other engagements, is the week of October 24th. So I'm just throwing that out there for you.
Let's start with September.
Yeah.
And the preferences for Tuesdays or Wednesdays, Peter?
I don't know, what day do you have a problem, Dan?
Well, typically, it's Wednesday, but it's all right. September's going to be
What
a tough
about,
month anyway.
what about the 20th?
No, I'm out of town.
Okay.
That's-
Um,
I'm out the 20th and 21st.
14th?
Yeah. I can do the 14th.
All right,
So that's
September 14.
When is he out in October, Judy?
The best week for him is the week of October 24th. He said any of the days that week that they can work with.
All right,
25th?
that's a Tuesday.
Wait a minute. October. I'm out of town again.
All week or just that?
Monday, Tuesday, wait a minute. Yeah,
You're gone all that week?
yeah. I am.
Well, if you want to pick another day, and I'll see if it's something that can work with them, and we
I
can,
can call in, though. I can call in,
you could Zoom in.
yeah, Zoom in,
Okay. Then that's not a problem.
but not until the 26th.
The 26th?
Yeah, but I would be Zoom.
Okay, that work for you, Peter?
Yeah, I'll do that.
June 11th and
Okay.
Zoom. Okay.
All right, and then November,
22nd?
I might be gone that week. I might be gone the week of Thanksgiving.
15th?
November 15th,
Yeah.
Tuesday. I could do that, but more than likely Zoom again for me.
That's okay.
when do you head south?
Well, that,
Right in that
I'll
timeframe?
be, that last week in October through that week in November, I'm there, and then I come back.
Okay,
So the 15th,
Yes.
November?
Yes.
all right. And then December,
21st?
works for me. How about you, Dana?
Yeah. Again, I'll
Probably
probably
Zoom.
be back in Florida by then.
Okay.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
So I show August 16th, September 14th, October
August-
26th. Huh?
August,
August 16th? What are you talking about?
we're in
Oh, yeah.
August.
Yeah.
Huh? What?
September 14th,
10/26, 11/15, 12/21.
correct.
But that's September 14, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
Great.
November was the 15th, right?
Correct.
yep.
October's the 26th, and
December's the 21st. Okay,
wait, when was September?
14th.
14th.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I see no members of the public, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.